I'm here at the top. It's funny when you get up top, it's just blow down city and all these stunted trees, right? Because you just get on top of just a lot of rock underneath the ground here, not much soil. The trees don't get big. Who knows how old these little guys are? The bugs are so thick. I just sprayed down again, but they still come in and try it, right? So they got to keep going like this to you. Bank, 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 bank. I think they're flocking around the camera too. Here's what it is. Oh, all right. Hope I'm not cliffed out getting back. I haven't been up on top of this particular rock for a handful of years. I shot a monster old buck here one time. I could see where he was crossing along this ridge top, and he kept doing it about once every week or so. Then I finally tracked him down and got him. He had no teeth left. He's on his way out, so it was pretty good hunt. Lots of good memories in here. But anyway, I haven't quite recognized my way out over the hill here yet. I still got about an hour and a bit to go to get to the truck, I guess, but I got a funny feeling I'm cliffed out. It's funny when you get in the timber on these windy days. All the dead trees leaning on other trees, they sway in the wind, and they whine. They make whining sounds and squeaking sounds. And you get a good gust come through, and it's almost like you hear voices in the distance, right? And then you slow down, you listen again, and you realize, no, that's not a voice. Those are trees rubbing, like these ones right here. It also can be quite risky to go in the timber when it's windy. All I gotta do is look at the ground, look at the size of the branches on the ground, and pick out which ones would kill you if they hit you in the head from 30, 40 feet. And they're everywhere. Right? So that's a good indicator of trying to go in the big timber when it's absolutely storming out. It's a dangerous thing. I've done it more of the times than I should have, for sure. I'm guilty of it. All right, let's see what we got. Besides a million bugs. Hello, Steve. First of all, thank you for creating and maintaining this platform to support the people. It is much needed and very appreciated by many around the world. Oh, those kind words. It's too easy, but you know what? It's the people, man. This is the people's channel now, and the people support it big time. But thank you very much for those kind words. I was listening to you when you were on Spaced Out Radio. I was not surprised at all when the interviewer stated that their site crashed while you were live as a guest. Yeah, that was kind of funny, wasn't it? That was a different experience for me. I didn't understand what was going on. I thought that was a bad thing, and I couldn't understand why the guy was freaking out happy about the site crashing. I guess it was a good thing for them. It's apparent people want to hear what you have to say. I know of a few popular podcasts who have attempted to contact you and have you on as a guest in the past, and none of them even received a reply from you. Why is that? I've searched out to see what or whose podcasts you have been a guest on and have found none. Please share your thoughts on this, as I'm sure I'm not the only one taking notice and is curious. Maybe I'm missing them, and you could point us out to any podcasts you've been on. Thanks for all you do. Charlie D., Syracuse, New York. Syracuse, New York, been there. Been there too. Been to a place called Skinny Atlas, Lake George, I think. What can I say to that? You know what? A couple years ago, over the years, as soon as the podcast thing started getting familiar or popular, yeah, I've had a few invites of people to get me a hunting theme podcast, and I said I would, and I just never got around to it. I just didn't have time. And it's just so, I was working my ass off. I've always been working my ass off, non-stop. And by the time I get home, back then I just wasn't into it. It's like, oh God, no. Maybe another time. Maybe another time. And things carry on. Your life progresses. You start creating more things for yourself, and you lose touch with those initial people I said I would do their podcast. But since I've been tackling this topic, which wasn't planned, I have a tough time. I don't want this to be about me. This isn't about me. And some of the podcasts I have followed in the past, of not this topic, but many other topics, the more popular ones, it's like they'll have that little group of friends, other celebrities and other people, and they just keep working off each other, and making about them, trying to promote them. And I see it, and it just doesn't, that's not appealing to me. That's not appealing to me at all. And a handful of fairly popular podcasts. I think I've done 2, haven't I? I think I did 2. But a handful of the popular names in this topic were all just pouncing on me, trying to get a hold of me, get me on their podcast, But at that time, I thought, well, what for? My story's already out. You guys already heard it. Why do you want me? There's nothing. What do you want to talk to me for? It's not about me. And I'm not trying to promote me. I'm trying to promote all you and all your experiences. And that's what I was trying to do. I'm starting to babble. I'm tired, man. I've been hiking. And I forgot my lunch. I'm starting to crash a bit. But I guess to make a quick, simple answer is because it's not about me. If I could go on to some of these podcasts, and the majority of them, not all of them, but the majority of the ones that I have had, people that have contacted me, they're about them. They do the podcast circuit. They like to talk. They like the camera. They like to get their point of view across, and they like to be speaking on it. And they want to be in front of the camera. Whereas I suppose it would be attractive for me to hit all these podcasts if I could bring 200 people or more of you with me as a group, and we could all talk. Then it would probably be more appealing to me. But other than that, it's just not appealing to me. It doesn't get my attention. And that's about all I can say to that, I guess. But as a side note, though, I had a handful of people who are active in front of the camera when it comes to this topic. They all tried to get a hold of me. They used other people to get a hold of me for them, and they didn't get any replies back. And it didn't take very long, and every single one of them started to attack me and try to attack my character. I don't know, maybe it's my tummy telling me not to do the podcast, I guess. I don't know. There you go. I hope that answers your question. And trust me, when I flash up my new studio in the man cave, this is going to be all about you. And all of you are going to be talking in there. All of you. To each other. Not the mainstream names when it comes to this topic and others. I can guarantee you that. What do we have? Mark it as red so I don't get in trouble. I'll tell you what, I get bitched at for everything. I even noticed somebody blowing a gasket the other day. I can't stand looking at the comment section. Just sometimes the odd time they come up on the front of my phone. All of a sudden, bam, there's a comment on my phone. I'm looking at it. What's that? It's a comment from YouTube. And then I'm reading it. And then it'll be something that knee-jerks me wanting to say something sarcastic back, and off I go into la-la land for a few minutes. I try not to read the comments. Where'd that come from? I'm tired. I'm obviously tired of babbling. But here we go. Bigfoot in Bama. Hi, I listened to one of your YouTube videos titled Mount St. Helens Cover-Up. You read an email from a lady that mentioned a dogman encounter in Shelby County, Alabama. Anyway, my encounter that I'm sharing happened in an adjacent county to Shelby County. In fact, my county and Shelby County border each other. My son and I were up on a mountain deer hunting a few years back. This mountain is part of the Appalachian mountain chain. We were probably about a half mile into the woods where we parked the truck. We were walking atop the ridge that led to a clear cut that had been cut about a year prior. When we got to the edge of the clear cut, we stopped, and I was scanning the clear cut from left to right. As I was looking, I got this odd feeling that we needed to leave. I continued to look despite the feeling. When I had scanned all the way, looking towards the right side, at the edge of the clear cut was a tree line. I noticed a large oak tree, so I kept focusing on that tree, and a large gray fur-covered Bigfoot peeked out from behind the large oak. Immediately, a fear overwhelmed me. I told my son, "We gotta go." He asked why. I didn't answer him. I grabbed him by his hoodie and started fast walking out of there. He was only about 10 at the time, and I was pretty much dragging him out of those woods backwards. I wanted to keep him within my grip to try to protect him. Anyway, that's just one of my encounters that I've had with these beings. I'll email another encounter that happened out behind my house later. Thank you for what you're doing. People need to know these things are real, and they can be dangerous at times as well. You can use my first name, which is Kenny. Kenny, thanks for that. And I can't imagine the adrenaline blast you would get as a parent hunting in the middle of the woods and one of these damn things staring at you. That'd be very alarming. I hope you're honest with your son one day about what you saw, okay? Because that is the key. It's the key to getting this out mainstream is starting with the children. I know that doesn't sound comfortable to many people, but that is how things change in this world. It starts with the children. You gotta inform them honestly, right? What do we got? Oh, mark that as red. Howdy there, Pilgrim. Hello, Steve. I enjoy your videos. I like to share with you my encounters. My name is Rom. I'm 60 years old. I have over 10 heart attacks. My heart injection rate is 18%. A couple months ago, I had a catheter ablation of ventricular tachycardia. So my hiking days are over. That sounds serious to me. Back in the day I was growing up, I spent all my time in the creeks and woods. You see, I was born in the Adirondacks Mountains, wrapped in a red-black hunting shirt as a baby. I've seen basset hounds jumping out of trunks of cars at my dad's and friends' hunting lodge as my earliest childhood memories. I went camping 2 weeks every year. My whole like till a few okay, there's gonna be some spelling mistakes in here, you guys, alright, so be patient. I went camping 2 weeks every year my whole life till a few years ago. I grew up camping mountain Lassen throughout the Sierras and Cascade Mountain. Now believe my words, everything I say is true. Okay, man, let her rip. At 13, I met George Massey in Columbia, California. I got a good dose of gold fever, and to this day I metal detect and explore. I used to gold dredge on a forgotten river in the Mother Lode Boy. Wait till you hears this stuff, grab a cup of joe. I'm reading it exactly how it's spelled, alright? I was in the Boy Scouts at 13 with 4 50-milers. I was at Camp High Sierra waiting on a ridge when I heard a call like the bugle of an elk, a long-distance call over the mountaintops. That was the first time I recall the strange event. Now at 17 in 1977, my father and I were in Scotts Mills, Oregon, 9 miles back on a dirt road along Butte Creek, virgin timber. I hung out on a 3,000-acre Boy Scout ranch with 53 horse one night. Walking home, a mountain lion wanted to eat me. At 50 feet, it was up close and personal in my face, growling. A car came and ran it off. Buck knife in hand, I was walking backwards, hopeful to get to the ranch house light a quarter mile back. Now there's a beaver pond up that road. I was fishing with my black lab Ralph when I heard a loud huff and puff, and I looked up by a large bush that was shaking. Thinking back, I thought it was a bear. Now I'm not sure. It was a hella big un over the top of the bush. As I walked closer, I ran. I didn't stop to look as I was reeling in my line at a dead run, calling Ralph to catch up. He was, what? Dumbfounded. I ran back the 3 miles from my dad's friend's place. A night or two later, my dad in the middle of the night was yelling a bear is in his ice chest. Now that was a trip. The next day, the ice chest was sitting there, not knocked over. Whatever it was lifted the lid and grabbed a ham we were making sandwiches with. I stared at the tree line. Something was watching us. A weird feeling came over me. Ralph never ate the ham. A few months later, I was at the Frog Jumps Jubilee in Calaveras County. Me and my Edenvale friends, we all grew up together. While we were partying, the Hells Angels in the parking lot having a few beers. The sheriffs ran us off, so I awoke in the back seat of a Nova Joe car. It was pitch-ass dark. Found myself looking at the bridge. I walked over and saw a campfire my friends had going. I fell and stumbled down through the rocks, enjoyed a steak and beer. This is my first time on the... Oh man, you know what? I am absolutely sorry, but I just can't read this any further, alright? If you can in the future, get somebody, retype this, reread it, redo it. It's way too awkward, it's way too long, and it's starting to not make sense, unfortunately, okay? You have to pass on that for now. Read it out loud to yourself. Correct it. Send it back in again, all right? Ugh. Hate it when that happens. Finally sharing my stories. All right, now a lot of you are probably going to be a little frustrated with me that I partly read that email. But Hopefully me sharing that email gives all of you the incentive to proofread your emails thoroughly before you email it to me, okay? All right. Hi, Steve. I sent you 3 other emails. 2 of them you read on your videos. The first was just my thoughts on what many call infrasound. I think of it more as a form of thought energy they are capable of using. The second was mainly just for you, about an encounter I saw you having with one or more of these beings. And the third was my thoughts on Edgar's email from Wales. You read the first and third ones. To recap, in my first email, I mentioned my first experience of sighting one of these Sasquatch beings when I was 14 and how I blocked it from my mind for 30 years. Here is the story. This happened inside city limits of Dallas, Texas in 1978. I was 14 at the time and I'm now 57. This was pretty much the culmination of a very long week. I'd taken off with 2 other guys my age and hitchhiked to Austin, Texas, from where I lived in Irving, Texas, a couple hundred miles away. Been to Austin. Before making it to Austin, we got stopped by a county sheriff's deputy and arrested as runaways. I spent 3 days in a juvenile facility in Austin until my mother sent money for a bus ticket back home. The other 2 guys' parents drove down to pick them up the first day. After riding the bus back to Dallas, there was no one at the bus station to pick me up. Could not get a hold of anyone. I took off walking from downtown Dallas toward home, ended up in the wrong part of town and got mugged with a knife at my throat. Oh no. Next thing you know, this guy mugging me is begging me not to hurt him after I grab his hand with the knife and was about to crush his windpipe. I mentioned my first email I started training in martial arts at the age of 14 also. After finally get home, I found that the locks had been changed in my house by my drunk stepdad. I stayed around that area for a couple of days, sleeping in the alley behind the apartments. Then I decided to walk to my grandmother's house, which is about 30 miles away. I ended up walking the entire distance to my grandmother's, starting at around 2 in the afternoon. Along the way, at one point, I was practicing some mental shape-shifting I had learned from an Apache friend who had also been training with the martial arts. At first, I was pretending to be a wolf. Got so into it that I found myself chasing rabbits in the briars. I then started pretending to be a deer. About that time, it was getting dark. That was really scary, being a prey animal at night. A couple hours later, I'm in this low area between 2 communities. This is inside the Dallas city limits, but this area had never really been developed. On the side of the road was a state game preserve that had been abandoned. The other side of the road was ranch land. There was about 3 miles of nothing but trees and some pillars from an old raised trolley system that went through the area in the 1930s. I stopped the foolishness with practicing the shape-shifting because I wanted to be aware of what was around me. I'd encountered wild dogs in the area before. As I'm getting to the lowest spot along this road, there's a creek that runs under the road and then a railroad bridge that crosses above. As I'm getting to the creek, I noticed what I thought at first to be a cow standing in the creek on the right side of the road. There's a full moon off to my right up behind this thing. I saw what looked like reddish-brown, shaggy hair hanging down from this creature. At the time, the back was horizontal, so I was thinking it was one of those Scottish Highland cows. I watched it for a few seconds, trying to figure out why it was there outside the fence of the ranch, and then it stood up and turned toward me. I was able to see its entire silhouette with the moon behind him. This thing was massive, standing on 2 legs, looking at me from only 30 feet away. I could not see any facial details, only glowing red eyes. My thoughts suddenly went to monster run. I turned and ran, probably faster than any time in my life. I ran until I was in the next small community and under the streetlights. The whole time I was running, I was thinking this thing was right behind me, going to catch me at any second. What is really strange about this encounter is that a year earlier, I lived only a couple miles from this spot, the community I ran to. I would spend a lot of time hiking and camping in the game preserve. On one camping trip, when I was 13, I was out there for several weeks alone. At one time while I was there, a couple of guys started hanging out at the pond where I fished, puffing spray paints all day. What the hell? I wanted to scare them away, so I climbed up on this cliff above the pond just after dark with the moon behind me. I wore my blanket like a cape and opened it up like wings and made this god-awful scream. I heard those 2 guys take off running into the night. One of them I never saw again. The other one was still there by the pond when I went down there to fish the next morning. He was hiding under a bush and looked at me like I was some kind of alien when I walked by him. Maybe my sighting was payback for scaring those 2 guys so bad. I remember making it to my grandmother's house about 2 in the morning. I did not want to wake her, so I slept on the porch. After my grandmother got up, I went inside, ate breakfast, and then went up to my old room and did not come out for 3 days. I was so exhausted. Somehow I managed to block that incident with the Sasquatch from my mind, and it did not come back for 30 years. I remembered everything prior to that and some of the walk from their grandmothers. This has gotten pretty long, so I will end this here. There are a lot of other experiences that I've had over the last 13 years. That is when the memories of this first encounter came back. I'm writing this sitting in my car where I've had the majority of my encounters with these Sasquatch Sabe people, and I'm getting a strong uneasy feeling. Most of the ones around here are not a threat, but I've had a couple of bad experiences with one particular individual here, as well as an encounter with what appeared to be a wrath. I'll continue the stories later. I feel it is time to leave here for tonight. Thank you, Steve, for all you do for the people. Dennis Severns. P.S. I was not able to send this from where I was first writing. On the way out from the trailhead, something crossed the road in front of me that was very tall and dark. I only saw it from a distance and saw mostly just eye shine. That was a good ways off the ground. Probably just a moose. There are several in the area. The old eye shine. The glowing eyes. It sucks, man. And the abusive, drunken stepfathers of many. And, yeah, I can sadly relate. My mom married a drunken, abusive bully who thought he's the toughest, baddest bastard on the planet. I mean, he's definitely one of the most evil. And then after that, he used to always joke that stepdads are made for beating up. Not all of them. There's some great men out there that come into young people's lives. Unfortunately, many of us never had that happen. Had the opposite happen. But anyway, thanks for that share again, man. Appreciate it. Make sure you share more in the future when you can. Many people want to hear from you. Missouri, part 1 and 2. Been to Missouri, shot some turkeys there. Shot my very first turkey ever in Missouri, actually. Ugh. I really don't know where to start with telling my story. First off, I want to apologize for misspellings or grammar errors. I will start with I'm 42. I served in the U.S. Army 2004 to 2013. Deployed to Iraq in 2005-2006. In the Army, I served as a forward observer, which in training we were taught to identify 3 things. That is, that it is, and size, what it's doing, degree of protection, and or degree of security. In my high school days, I played football and was not a small individual by any means. I grew up as the big kid that was always being picked on until I found out that with size comes strength, both physically and emotionally. I will say that because with physical size, men have a false sense of strength and confidence, which can lead to some very bad situations. I've spent my childhood running through the woods in Missouri and fishing and camping in the Ozarks, in Missouri by the Lake of the Ozarks, and other large public and private areas. I will never say I've had a Bigfoot experience, but when I was a teenager, I started bow hunting, and many times I went by myself since my dad did not bow hunt. In fact, my dad didn't do much hunting unless there were other with us, and that went for camping. He never hunted alone. So I'd go to a local public land, and when I say that, I mean they were miles away from any big city. When I was 19, went for an evening hunt. Well, this would be the night that woke me up to a real emotion, and what I've seen you about the sixth sense. On this one night, I parked at the trailhead, as some would call it. I walked about 20 to 30 minutes into the woods, keeping a general sense of the direction of where I parked, since there really were not real established trails to speak of. After a few hours, it was as if it was dead silent. Not a creature was moving, and it was strange because if you have ever hunted or even been in the woods of Missouri, you would know that the squirrels are everywhere and will blow your spot by constantly squawking and chirping, letting everyone know you're there. Damn tree rats. On this night, I noticed that I was nice and quiet. It was nice and quiet. I really didn't notice anything out of the ordinary other than the silence, and it didn't bother me. Way off in the distance, I heard a pack of coyotes howling and making a bunch of noise, which was no worries to me, but I heard tales of a pack of yotes having the balls enough to challenge people in the woods, so I thought it best to get moving. I was losing light fast. Lacking a little bit of punctuation this one, you guys. Now the pack was too far away. I didn't feel like they were close enough to be of concern to me in any way, but it was time to go. As I am walking the same path they took in the woods, I started hearing something walking behind me. Not really thinking about it, I thought another hunter slipped in after I got in the woods and had the same idea of it's time to go home. I stopped and looked behind me, expecting to see a fellow hunter. There was no one. Then I started to feel a creepy feeling. There was no one. which then I started to feel a creepy feeling. So I turned around and with a quickened pace, I started to back to my truck. About 2 minutes later, I heard footsteps on my left passing me, then around behind me. And almost at the same time, the same thing on the opposite side, traveling in the opposite direction. Then and only then did I feel like this is bad and I needed to get moving fast. As a new bow hunter, the worst thing is to panic and run, but move as fast as possible. And the footsteps kept coming in close, but with the light gone, I had no way of seeing what it was. And I tried to tell myself the coyotes had moved in on me, or there were a pack I did not know of. By then, I thought I'd come into contact with yotes in the past and I ran off when they noticed me. But whatever this was, it was pacing me, and there was more than one. Oh, that sucks. All this happened within a 30-minute walk. It took longer since I now was walking in pitch black with minimal light. Also, I must mention in Missouri, we have very thick brush and undergrowth. A man can walk in these woods 20 feet and not be seen in some parts of the land. I just happened to pick some thick brush, hoping I can pick off a deer on the way to bedding grounds. It's a good way when you don't know what you're doing to find a deer. Pick something to target, like food, water, or cover bedding for bedding. Well, picked an established bedding area that was in a thick area, and it was thick all the way to an opening with an 80-yard stretch to the parking area. Sorry for the sidetrack. After the two, whatever it was, started circling me, I now started doing what in the Army we call a range walk, which is a red hare from a run, but a jog of sorts. As I started to pick my pace, the steps got closer and faster, as if they thought they were hurting me or just pushing me out of the area. I heard no vocals this whole time, just the sound of something walking in the brush, just out of sight. It was then I felt like I'm scared. My kneecaps are twitching for what I'm guessing was adrenaline or fear. I was never the one for confrontation. In fact, I was the big kid that I was getting beat up in school, and from that, I guess I developed a sense of when I was going to have to fight. I got that feeling, and I knocked an arrow and drew back when coming to a stop in the edge of the clearing. With a full draw, I turned to where one of the sound of steps were coming from. I acted like I was the toughest son of a bitch and yelled out, "I will shoot you if you don't stop." With now knowing what it is to be in the fight or flight situation and not being able to fly cast enough, that's when the second one made its presence really noticeable. It quickly moved closer to me and I turned to its direction and the movement stopped. Then the first one closed in. Then it popped in my head. It's a numbers game and now I'm on the losing side. So I relaxed my draw and the pressure seemed to let off a bit. So I took the arrow in my meek hand and began backing into the clearing and had my bow in one hand and an arrow in the other. Still with quivering knees, I really just wanted to make all this go away. In the meantime, I've learned to never give your back to a bully, and this is what I felt like I was. I was being picked on, and something was having their fun with me, but when I drew, I felt like the message was clear: I'm not a toy and I'll fight. Well, that's the image I want to present. In fact, I was scared as F. I walked in the clearing, hearing the steps in the distance, but a bit further than when they were in the brush. When I got to my truck, I noticed as it was just like when I got there, my truck was the only truck in the area, so that ruled out other hunters. I'll not say what it was because I do not know. I couldn't see a damn thing. There's a part of me that tells myself that if it was coyotes or feral dogs, but with feral dog, they don't fear humans, and coyotes, I believe, they target a person and the numbers were on their side, they have attacked. I could be wrong. But either one of those theories answers the question of why did they back off when I chose to stand my ground. This is my first unexplained event in the woods. My second experience happens when I was 21. Became friends with an older guy that was a Vietnam vet and worked with the white mice in the highlands of Vietnam. He had some land we would bow hunt and the rifle hunt. We would always walk in about 1 hour to 2 hours before sunrise so we could let the woods fall back to sleep, as Jim would say after we walk in and make noise. Not knowing anything and much anything other than being a dumb 20-year-old, I started noticing some days in the woods Jim would be antsy, and then he'd be calm and not make a movement. And then I started taking not the same time the squirrels would hide and the soundbirds. Holy cow, man, sorry, I just can't do it. This is another one, I just can't do it. Too tired and the punctuation's atrocious. Sorry, man. I'm tapping out. Tapped out. That sucks. I'll try one more. What do we got in the timer here? I'm gonna go one more on that. I apologize for that, you guys. And yeah, I am gonna post it in the email. I'm gonna post it in the video because it's all of us together. It's not just me, all right? Read them before you send them. Hi, Steve, and watch your channel even before you're branching out to the facts. I'll stick to the facts. Could care less about being in the spotlight, so this isn't easy. My name is Rick Boone. We'll be 70 soon, so I'm compelled to share this while time is not on my side anymore. It's 1972. While hitchhiking up the Alcan Highway, I was paralleled by something huge, stomping in the woods for quite a while till my rescuing ride came along. Oh my God, that must have been a relief. I've had to hitchhike on the Alaska Highway a few times just so I can get back to a payphone while I left my hunter and all the horses ditched back in the woods. Anyway, that's not the story I'm sharing though. This happened in my sunroom while watching a football game. I was living a clean life while in a power weightlifting program. I was in my mid-50s, so this was to keep me strong as I do tree work for a living. I'm watching the game with my wife, and I notice a brightness to my left. There it was, a shiny arc glowing not 9 feet away. It has sun-colored bricks forming the outside perimeter that were 4 inches wide and 18 inches long. It was 8 feet high and 6.5 feet wide. The inside part was the color of the moon. My coffee table appeared to be stretching like taffy towards it. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. So I hoped, as my head turned back to the TV, that the arc would travel with my line of vision. Nope, it stayed right there. My wife asked me what I was doing. My double takes were not normal behavior. I told her I was looking at an arc. She said she didn't see it. I figured maybe I was dying because sometimes people see things before they go. I was okay with that. We all gotta go. Then I thought, oh no, I have a lot of debt and no life insurance. Now I'm trembling. My wife will be pissed at me till she dies. In the meantime, this phenomenon is still there for about 3.5 minutes. I said inwardly, Lord, let me live till tomorrow and I'll get that life insurance. After a while, to my relief, the arc finally went away. I could have gotten up and walked to it or through it. Could have walked away. I figured better sit tight because I don't know what this thing is. It's already superimposed. It's reality over mine. So I sat like a rabbit in the headlights. Now here comes another crazy part. I did get the insurance. 2 days after, I was covered. My back started hurting me horribly. 5 weeks later, I was finally diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which dissolved my spine plenty to get emergency surgery. At the time, the average lifespan after diagnosis was 7 years. If I hadn't taken action to get my life insurance because of the vision, I'd have worried myself to death about the debt. My body is now like a beater car that keeps chugging. It's a wreck, but moves right along. I don't need any sympathy. We all fight gravity along with everything else. One of the reasons I got the gumption to write you is that I never could track down anything like this arc. I hope maybe someone else has seen this. That's it. Thanks for giving me a way to share this. Hope you liked all the commas. Well, it's either Johan or Johan. Thank you so much for that share, my man. Oh, Rick. I just looking at your email title. Sorry, man. Rick Boone. Thanks for that email. You know, there's so many people here, it's ridiculous. So, I don't know. Maybe somebody's seen the same thing you have. I guess we're going to find out in the comments below, aren't you? Or somebody's popsing going to email it into me. I hope you live long. I hope you live long and happy, and you get to enjoy your wife and you get to enjoy each other's company for a lot much longer. And I assure you, there's more coming after this lifetime, without a doubt. Without a doubt in my mind. Without a doubt. But anyway, I'm so freaking hungry. I'm disappointed in myself for forgetting my lunch today. I'm gonna carry on and see if hopefully I'm not cliffed out over here. We'll find out shortly. I gotta get my butt out of here, and then tomorrow I'm back in the mountains again. And as I am doing my thing, I'm going to be sharing emails with all you. So keep emailing them in to sharemystory@howtohunt.com, tellmystory@howtohunt.com. We'll get to it, all right? We'll get to them.